Hey guys, welcome back to another video in the r/entitled_parents subreddit. Today I have 3 entitled parent stories for you, all starring our beloved Decepticarens, and this first story could honestly be made into an independent short. It's so hilarious, so let's just jump right into it. A Karen tries to bully me into giving her spawn candy. I accidentally shatter her marriage. Okay, so I am a frequent cruiser on this subreddit, but I never thought I'd actually have my own story to tell on it. I'm still not completely convinced if it wasn't a fever dream. If not for a neighbor dropping by to ask me what the hell happened last night, I probably would have dismissed it as a fever dream. But enough preface, let's get into it. So I was hoping, thanks to COVID, this wouldn't be a problem, but the kids in my neighborhood keep coming to my door on Halloween for candy. Every year I tell them that no, I am not giving it out and to go somewhere else. I've gone so far as to put out signs telling them to shove off and leave me alone every October. But the little bastards just seem to take it as a challenge. They'll repeatedly ring the doorbell until I come out or get bored. Once they went 5 whole minutes before they went away, or keep coming back to my place after I tell them no, hoping I'll change my mind. I never do. This year, one particularly persistent little brat from the next cul-de-sac over, who's made it her mission to wear me down for candy every year, rings the doorbell and I tell her nicely, or as nicely as you can tell someone who repeatedly ignores the big red sign saying that my house is not for trick-or-treating, that I don't have any candy. She looks at me with what she probably thought were adorable puppy dog eyes and asks me if I would mind checking. I tell her there is absolutely no candy in my house, nor will there ever be. That was a lie, but she didn't need to know that. Then the little monster gets it into her head that I'm lying and keeps asking me if I'm sure. I tell her that I'm diabetic. I'm not, but she apparently doesn't know what that means. One Google search on my phone later and she accuses me of lying about having it. I am, but that's not the point. I suppose I could have just given her a Hershey bar, but I really didn't want her spreading the triumphant news to all of her other little monsters of how she finally got the mean lady to succumb to her will at the risk of any of them following in her example. So I just tell her that I don't have to give candy to anybody who's going to be so rude as to deny my very serious medical condition and close the door. About an hour later, I'm hate watching the Francis Ford Coppola Dracula movie. It's a train wreck, but I can't help watching it when I get another ring on the doorbell. I come down to find the little abomination peeking out from behind the legs of a very angry looking entitled mom. The following exchange goes down. How can I help you, ma'am? My daughter says you repeatedly refuse to give her candy. I'm sorry, I don't have any. This callous attitude towards the festivities is unacceptable. It's Halloween, you should have prepared for it. I didn't think any kids would be trick-or-treating this year thanks to a certain virus. Well, after everything they've been through, we as a community owe it to them to make up for all the fun they've missed out on this year. Look, I get where you're coming from, but it's 10 p.m. I'm not going to get up and go pick up a bag of Tootsie Rolls at this ungodly hour just so that your kid can have the full Halloween experience. It's here that Mommy Dearest takes it upon herself to give me a lecture on the importance of participating in the community. I told her that maybe if she wasn't such an entitled Karen, her husband would be more eager to participate in the bedroom with her instead of me. This is where I may have been kind of an a-hole. What I said was nothing more than a heat of the moment remark, but the woman went absolutely ballistic upon hearing it. She freaked out and started screaming about whether or not her husband was sleeping with me. Apparently the guy actually did go on some kind of a business trip recently, and my little quip set off all the red flags in her head. She starts demanding to know if her hubby was in my house, trying to crane her neck around me to see inside, and shrieking at him to come out. At this point, I'm tired, I'm on the verge of a food coma from all the grocery store goodies I've binged on, and I'm 100% done with all of this. So I tell her to come back with a warrant and shut the door on her in spite of her attempts to wedge her way in. I can still hear her meltdown on my way up the stairs. Now joined in disharmony with her daughter demanding to know what's going on, I look out the window of my bedroom to see her angrily punching in a number on her phone and dialing up who I think was her husband. The poor man got an earful. I didn't catch everything she said, but at one point she mentioned something about how he has no business cheating when she could have taken advantage of his absence with her brother-in-law after he came on to her at their anniversary party, but she spared his feelings by not doing anything about it. She's being so loud that she draws the attention of other trick-or-treating families in the neighborhood. Anybody unfortunate enough to ask what's going on gets treated to a first-hand spun bite of her marital problems. One neighbor goes so far as to come out of his house and ask her to take this someplace where she isn't disrupting the ambience. This prompts her to turn her wrath on him and shrieks at him to mind his own beeswax. The poor man barely gets away with his life. It was like watching an episode of Maury unfolding, if Maury Povich was an elderly Asian man. At this point, I was seriously scared that she was going to try and break into my house. Looking for proof hubby was there. I considered just coming out and admitting to her that I was yanking her chain, but the ball was already in motion and I doubted whether my confession would have saved her marriage at this point. Fortunately, after she ended the call, she stormed off with her now hysterical crotch goblin in tears. I felt a little bad for turning what should have been a fun night for the kid into such a traumatic experience, but maybe now she'll know not to knock on my door next year. You know, I want to call this woman a bitter old hag, but honestly, other than hating on Bram Stoker's Dracula, she's not wrong here. I personally love Halloween, but it's an unwritten rule that you do not even go near a house without its lights on. If I were to not want to celebrate Halloween and I had kids relentlessly ringing my doorbell for free food, I would be irritated too. She also saved some poor chump from living the rest of his life with Karen and Karen Jr. However, this story does seem like it's probably from Faker Mick Fakersville, but nonetheless, it was really well written and gave me a good laugh. Entitled mother pops football/soccer ball when it goes over her side of the fence. Her kid becomes a bullying target at school. This is an old story, but I guess it kind of fits here. When I was 10, I would play football, soccer for you Americans, with my cousins who visited my home during the holidays. We will call them Bruce and Robert for the sake of keeping identities safe. While playing football, me and Bruce tried the overhead tricks a few times, and one of these times led to the ball flying over the goal and into my neighbor's back garden. This woman was an older woman who looked in her late 30s and very chubby. Long brown curly hair and a dress that made her fatness very apparent. Her son actually tried to take the ball when it went over, and me and my cousins were screaming angrily about him being a thief for trying to keep our ball that belonged to us. My two aunts, who we will call Sally, Robert's mom, and Allie, Bruce's mom, came out after hearing the shouts and demanded the ball be given back to us. The EM smirked at us before digging her nails into the ball and bursting it. The loud bang had caused us to get angrier, and me and my cousins actually jumped over the fence together to snatch back the popped ball. The EM slapped me and told me, if you didn't want it popped, you wouldn't have kicked it over the fence. This is your fault. I cried when the son started laughing at us, and I shoved him into his freezing cold pool before jumping back over. After the crap with Karen next door, the kid became the most hated person in school, and this little bully got a taste of what it feels like to be bullied. My cousin spread the story around the school. A week or so after the bullying, the kid was pulled out of school and the mother moved home. The nice old lady who moved in was actually someone I considered a friend while I knew her. I helped her with cleaning her home, and she gave me some money which I saved for a new ball. Karen may have gotten away with destroying my football, but karma comes around. Did Opie live next door to the Halloween-hating woman from the last story? My grandma actually lived next door to a ball popping mean lady too, and whenever my siblings and I would accidentally kick a ball into her yard, we would cringe with terror. My grandma is a sweet little petite Catholic woman, but when it came to that woman next door and getting our ball back, Granny became Bruce Willis. We would all cheer in victory as she returned with our ball in one hand and pistol in the other. Entitled mom thinks my colorblindness is contagious. Tries to get me banned from a school fair. Bit of a backstory, I'm mildly colorblind, and I have had this my whole life. I mostly struggle with telling the difference between pink and yellow, but there are more colors out there I can't see. This all started when the primary school my younger brother, 11 at the time, and not colorblind, was putting on a party/fair. I don't remember what for, but I think it had something to do with fair trade. Now my mother made me cut out some paper chains along with other people in the gym to prepare for the fair. More and more people left until it got to the point where it was just me and another kid and an old gentleman at the back. And this kid was professional at making paper chains. I struggled to keep up. I was sitting closer to the piles of paper than he was. When the kid ran out of paper, he kindly asked me to pass some of the yellow paper. I pulled some pink paper out of the pile, thinking it was yellow, and he looked at me confused. So I responded with, "Wait, is this pink or yellow?" And he responded pink and led me to the yellow paper. I apologized and told him I was colorblind, and he started to ask questions. They were questions of curiosity, such as, "Do you see red?" Or "What color is that?" Then enters EM. The EM in this case was the kid's mother and had entered the gym looking for the kid's father and overheard us talking about my colorblindness. The EM first said, "Blank, sweetie, please keep your distance. I don't want you to become colorblind as well." Me being utterly confused replied with, "Excuse me, you can't catch colorblindness from another person." The EM then proceeded to give me bullcrap looks and then walked out of the gym with her son in tow. I'd say about 5 minutes later, she returns with the head of the department and said, "Yup, he's the one." The head then approached me and said, "Are you the one causing disturbance down here?" No, what do you mean? This woman thinks my colorblindness is contagious and that I'm going to give it to her son. The head, of course, did not believe me, being a 14-year-old at the time who slacked off a lot. My mother overheard the conversation and walked in and started to defend me until the EM yelled, "Colorblindness is contagious and you're going to give it to everyone here if you don't leave." Me and my mom looked at her, utterly shocked, and the head was unaware on whose side she was on until she said, "All right, Mrs. EM, and you, Cheerio dude number 2, I'm going to ask you both to leave as you're both making a disturbance here." But then, the old gentleman at the back of the gym stood up and said, "There's no disturbance, miss. Mrs. EM is the only one harassing anybody here," before sitting back down again. Having heard his side, the head banned the entitled mom from the school fair. Don't worry about the kid though, he got to go with his dad. I saw the EM drive out of the school and I haven't seen her since. Also, as it turns out, the old gentleman was the school's former headmaster. Another Karen that's afraid her perfect angel will catch a non-contagious condition. This one takes the cake for most stupid though. How exactly would one catch colorblindness? You look into their eyes and you catch it? The person who's colorblind coughs in your eye and you catch it? Perhaps you have to rub each other's eyes together. Like, that is so ridiculous. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed these 3 entitled parent stories. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. I truly appreciate when you do, and I will see you in the next Reddit story. Bye!